Since it is a new year, as Dave said, I thought I would regale a true tale from New Year's Eve involving myself as it relates to this project. As we said, I am to reflect upon my thoughts and feelings and how they actually impacted others, but I've expanded the scope of the project to include my distant past, my distant artless past, and to reflect upon how I could have grown from this experience. It says in the notes for the evaluator, the member is not required to share the intimacies of his or her journal. However, in this instance, I am going to tell you all of my impressions involving this little mishap I experienced when I was babysitting on New Year's Eve, as well as how I could have grown from it. It all happened when I was 15. I got a lot of calls back then to babysit for the neighborhood children. On this particular New Year's Eve, I was asked to babysit for the Leslie family, 5 doors down. Dr. Leslie was a dentist with a wife and 5 adorable little children. They lived in an adorable little ranch house with 5 freckle-faced kids, but none was so cute as little Jimmy, who was about 4 or 5 at the time, and really the protagonist of this story. Little freckled-faced kid. He, at this point, was still learning how to pronounce his R's, which will come up later in the story. I arrived at the Leslie's house, and Mrs. Leslie was all excited. Her kids were all there, and she said, "Oh, Ann, I've been talking to the kids all day, and I've told them that if they're really, really good, they can stay up till midnight, watch the ball drop on TV, and that you would make a pizza for them at midnight. Right, kids?" And they all said, "Oh, yay, yay, yay." I mean, it didn't take much to get kids really enthused back then. But none was so excited about the prospects of the evening as little Jimmy. And repeatedly throughout the evening, I could hear him say to his brothers and sisters, "We got to be good because the babysitter will make us a pizza. We get to stay up till midnight. If we're really good, we get to watch the ball drop." But for me, being an artless, rather apathetic teenager, to be honest, unless it involved art or music, but everything else I just kind of blanked out, zoned out. It was just another babysitting gig. I remember just sitting on the sofa thinking, "Oh, yeah, this is boring." Finally, I looked at the clock. It was about 11:20, and I thought, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to put that pizza in the oven." Went into the kitchen, took the pizza out of the freezer. And of course, Mrs. Leslie said, "You do know how to make a pizza, don't you, Ann?" And I said, "Oh, no." I unwrapped the cellophane, preheated the oven to 425, put the pizza on the rack, shut the oven door. I don't recall having set a timer. At any rate, I went back and finished watching TV with the kids, just zoning out. And all of a sudden, I thought, "Oh my gosh, I better check on that pizza." I went into the kitchen, not expecting anything, opened the oven door, and literally billows and billows of white gray smoke just poured from the oven. And I remember just, I immediately opened the kitchen window, turned on the exhaust fan. And after I wiped everything away, I looked inside. And because this project is about optimism, I saw what it wasn't a charred pizza, but let's just say it was well on its way. It still had remains of the little yellow crust. And I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have to serve this pizza. So I took it out. And I remember I was only 15. I grabbed a serrated knife and I thought, okay, I'll first start cutting around the burnt edges. That's what you're supposed to do when you burn something, right? When you go to a potluck. Then I'm going to scrape off some of the carbon from the top. And then my mind was just racing. I thought, okay, I'll look for some Parmesan cheese, mozzarella cheese, sprinkle some on and just hope to God that they don't notice. But it was too late. Little Jimmy came running into the kitchen. One of these things, he didn't have his shoes on. He goes, and he just stops in the middle of the floor. And he said, "Well, it's midnight. Where's the pizza?" And I just stood there. "Well, where is it?" I said, It's here, Jimmy, it's in the oven." He said, "Well, aren't you going to get it out?" And I said, "It's a little overdone." He said, "It is? Let me see." And he marched over to the oven and he just literally dismissed me, just swished me away. It was just so humiliating. This little kid opened the oven door. He was determined. I mean, he could have, fought in any battle if he wanted to. And he was not deterred by the smoke. He just, just swishing. The pizza. You boinked it. You boinked the pizza. Wow. What a Cwuddy babysitter. You're a Cwuddy babysitter. And I tried to defend myself. Oh, well, we can. And he just immediately ran into the family room and announced to his siblings what a Cwuddy babysitter I was. He must have said it 10 times. And it got worse and worse and worse. Finally, he was distraught. This was the high point of his evening. His parents have been talking about this for weeks. And I could just hear his voice trailing into the distance. If those of you that are old enough or young enough to have watched The Wizard of Oz, if you remember the final scene where Dorothy splashes a bucket of water on the Wicked Witch and she starts to melt. And she goes, oh, wow, could a little innocent girl like you could do something like this to me? I'm melting. And her voice trails into the distance. That's how this little kid was. He was like, what a Cwuddy babysitter. She's the Cwuddiest babysitter I ever had. Oh, what a Cwuddy babysitter. And I just stood there in the middle of the kitchen floor, feeling rather Cwuddy. And literally from then on, the memory just blanks out. I have no idea what the parents said. I just blanked out. I need therapy to retrieve it. Now, getting back to the project, listen for ways the member grew or did not grow from the experience. What could I have done better? I wrote down, I could have used a timer. And now I always use a timer whenever I cook, even if it's for a hard-boiled egg. Honestly, fellow Toastmasters, if it weren't for Chamber Toastmasters, where I could recycle a boinked pizza into a viable pathway speech, I would still be feeling a little Cwuddy about it. But thanks to you, you have redeemed another fiasco, artless experience from my past. Thank you so much.